Maybe we will. I don't know. It's about to go down. Yeah. That's right. It's about to go down. It's the Audible, and it's our Week 13 recap here with Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom talking Bengals and Dolphins up first. Dolphins 19, Bengals 7. Kind of the game we expected, Bloom, in terms of who wins, but maybe a little unexpected when it comes to what happened in this game, including guys getting thrown out for slap fighting, I guess.
Yeah.
Tyler Boyd and Xavier Howard. I only saw one replay of it, but it wasn't very salacious, if you will. Brandon Allen goes 153 yards, touchdown, interception. Ryan Finley comes in. He throws a pick, of course. They didn't do much with the ground game. Gio Bernard, 12 for 30 to lead the way. It was really short passing attempts that they tried to supplement with for their ground game. So Tyler Boyd gets 1 for 72 and a touch. It was a great play before he was bounced. T. Higgins, a Brandon Allen favorite, gets 5 for 56. Drew Sample gets 7 for 49 because, well, once Boyd's out of the game, they're like, let's throw to somebody else. And not much else from anyone else, including A.J. Green, who got blanked. 1 target, no catches. So this one was weird, Bloom, on many levels.
It was weird. The Bengals go to their backup quarterback, Ryan Finley, by the end of this one. A tiny little bit of a last gasp drive to get within a score that didn't work out. We're happy if you played the Dolphins defense. We're just going to keep playing defenses against Cincinnati. Oh, wait, it's Dallas next week. Maybe we aren't going to play defenses against Cincinnati. We'll see. Andy Dalton revenge game. What is there to say here? I mean, Joe Mixon, if you're holding him to come back in this offense, Tyler Boyd, his 72-yard touchdown was exactly what you would think. It was about a 5-yard pass, and then Drew Sample, who had a good day catching the ball, through a block to spring him. So Miami maybe good in coverage, missing some speed there. As you said, there was the slap fight with him and Xavier Howard. There was a melee later on in the game, which delayed the game and made it the last game to finish. T. Higgins did a little bit. It's Dallas's defense next week, so you might be tempted to go back to Boyd or Higgins or Giovanni Bernard. But this season is over. But hey, at least Joe Burrow hopefully sees they'll draft an offensive lineman in the top 5 next year.
And get it right this time. As we've chronicled, they've been trying to work on their offensive line. It just didn't work out. Tua Tagovailoa has worked out to the tune of almost 300 yards today. 296 yards on 26 of 39 passing, 1 touchdown, no INTs. The touchdown to Mike Gesicki out there making tough grabs, touchdown grabs, ripping the ball away, one-handed grabs where he's taking shots to the face. 9 for 88 and a touch there. Myles Gaskin ran hard, 21 for 90 in this one, and then 2 for 51. If you trusted him on his return as a flex play, he paid off, to be sure. Jakeem Grant, 2 for 42. Devontae Parker, only 4 for 35. And then, there was the end zone one where he had the end zone right before the Gesicki touchdown. So there could have been a touchdown there. Lynn Bowden got 4 for 41 and actually got banged up in this one, Bloom. So, you're like, okay, let's see what he can continue to do. But you expected something out of Gesicki, out of Devontae Parker, out of Gaskin, and maybe a little bit out of Tua. What did you get?
Well, at least something to build on with Tua, right? Because there was a point in this game that they were trailing. The Bengals scored first, the first touchdown at least. And they went to that Mountaineer formation, where the punter, the holder is the quarterback and the kicker is the tailback. And then you got 3 guys on each wing and only 3 offensive linemen. And it worked. The punter ran it in for a touchdown, but the rookie offensive lineman sees they didn't report.
Both of the rookies, because it was both of their rookie offensive linemen.
Yeah,
Robert Hunt and then the USC kid, Jackson.
Yeah, Austin Jackson. And what's funny is, there are parts of football that are like parliamentary procedure. You didn't say Simon Says or whatever, So, but the point is, at that point, you felt like this is what this team needs to do. Those are the kind of plays you call when you're the Bengals and you have your 3rd string or 4th string quarterback in, not when you have your franchise quarterback. But Tua did come along, as you mentioned, Mike Gesicki, and he'll make a couple of plays a year where he doesn't just look like a football player. He looks like a tremendous football player. A lot of times he looks like just an athlete who has to really toughen up and get more used to the game. But you saw that big game for him. If you had some faith, even though Tua was in, you were rewarded there. That probably pulls you back in for the Kansas City game next week. Parker, as you said, a lot of wind out of his sails without Ryan Fitzpatrick out there. And then Myles Gaskin, and there's a few catches where he got free, got a lot of volume as they nursed a lead. He hung under the volume coming back from IR, so you like seeing that. Don't know if he's going to get that kind of volume next week against Kansas City. Don't know if Miami really looked like a playoff team in this one, but they did get the win. See, for a little while, I was like, are they really going to miss the playoffs because they can't beat Denver and Cincinnati? What? But they did get the win, and next week we'll see how they measure up against Kansas City.
Well, Raiders and Jets, 31-28, making our guy Jason very happy in the chat room because they got it done, although it was rough because at first they were like, we can't figure anything out, and then it was, oh, just keep feeding Darren Waller. Derek Carr gets 3 touchdowns, 1 INT, 381 yards. Darren Waller gets 13 for 200 and 2 touchdowns. What do you have? 3 touchdowns all of last year, Bloom? Mm-hmm. 2 touchdowns in this contest. It was awesome. Henry Ruggs, 3 for 84 and a touchdown. Also a pass that bounced off his hand. I think that's the one incomplete of the 4 targets thrown his way. Hunter Renfrow, 4 for 47 in this one. Nelson Aguilar, 4 for 38. And then Devontae Booker. People wondering, what's he going to do with no Josh Jacobs? 16 for 50. Oh, yeah, it was okay. And then a catch for a yard. So that's it. Derek Carr, by the way, rushing touchdown as well to benefit his fantasy day, which ended up being pretty big against the Jets.
This game was like the gravitational pull of the suck of the Jets and the suck of the Raiders just kept going back and forth to determine who was going to come away with a win. And the Raiders tried to get to the playoffs. They do get a win. They all count the same. So much to sift through here. Let's start out with Greg Williams. Greg Williams calls cover 0 when there's like 30 seconds left and the other team has no timeouts. So predictably, he gives up a long pass. Emmanuel Acho, who's been doing some tremendous stuff from non-sports perspective, from a sports background, said that he has to be throwing the game. He has to be trying to lose. And Dan Orlovsky, his buddy, comes in and says, no, Greg Williams does that all the time. It might be really bad, but he does it all the time. So Henry Ruggs comes through. Devontae Booker does not come through. So if you have felt that little feeling like, really, I'm going to trust Devontae Booker in an important fantasy week, I don't know about that. You were right. You were right to trust a quarterback going against the Jets. Next week, that's Russell Wilson, by the way, who has had all of his pots and pans and utensils taken away from him in Seattle. We'll see what's going on there. Sorry we won't be able to recap the afternoon game. Cecil's going to be on assignment in that Kansas City-Denver game, which should be watchable for what, Cecil, about 45 minutes?
Something like that.
Something like that. So you had Henry Ruggs, at least as a what-the-heck flex, maybe next week against the Colts. We did come through. I don't know how often the Colts are going to call cover 0. I don't even think they call cover 0. Booker comes up short, but you got Darren Waller. And just to put this in perspective, Tristan Cockcroft, I have to give him credit, Sultan of Stat from ESPN puts this out there. Darren Waller was actually in the top 10 tight end fantasy games of all time. We can play a little trivia, because there's some from the non-modern era. Cloyce Box has the number 1 and number 8 games of all time. Waller comes in at number 9. Rich Castor, who probably no one's heard of, came in at number 10. Bob Shaw, also from 1950. The Cloyce Box games were 50 and 52. 3 other players appear on the top 10 all-time tight end fantasy single game list. So you want to take a stab at any of the 3?
Tony Gonzalez?
No, surprisingly, not Tony Gonzalez.
Okay.
Mike Ditka, twice. Shannon Sharp, twice. Kellen Winslow, Sr., twice. So Darren Waller, some company there. And he was maybe not a golden ticket through the playoffs, because it's not quite the playoffs yet. But these are the kinds of weeks that we call golden ticket weeks. And it was enough to keep the Raiders in it until the Jets said, here, take this win. We want to go 0-16.
We don't need this win. We're trying to get Trevor Lawrence. And as soon as I went on my Ty Johnson rant in the preview or whatever show that was, Bloom, I was like, watch him have 100 yards this week. Yeah. Because it's about matchups. And it's not, and I still stand by my words of like, you can't just take the backup. Like, well, this guy's hurt, so the backup, plug him in. But it's about matchups. And we've seen it before, whether it's Matt Asiata or Ty Johnson today with 100 yards rushing on 22 carries, a rushing touchdown. Sam Darnold, a rushing touchdown. Who did he run over, Bloom? Who's that defender he ran over as well on his rushing touchdown? 186 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both of them to Louder with Crowder. Jamison Crowder, 5 for 47, 2 TDs. Jamison Crowder's the best wide receiver on the Jets. Prove me wrong. Denzel Mims, 2 for 40. Little nod there, Bloom. Brashad Perriman, 1 for 22. So some interesting plays, and one of those being Ty Johnson.
This was a back and forth game. The Raiders looked like they had control. Then the Jets took control. Then the Jets gave the game to them. Sam Darnold had a solid fantasy day. So Jeff Heath, thank you, Mike Beeler in the chat room. That's who Sam Darnold ran over, former Cowboy. Sam Darnold had a decent fantasy day. So we're looking at Vegas. Even Phillip Rivers on one good wheel could do something. Although with Phillip Rivers, they're more like tracks, like treads on a tank than wheels. But the point is, you're noticing that, yes, Sam Darnold had a good fantasy day against the Raiders. And then you're looking at Jonathan Taylor next week and thinking, yeah, I would like that after Ty Johnson and Josh Adams. Adams almost 10 yards a carry on his 8 carries. Ty Johnson grinding it out. Frank Gore leaving with the concussion. And then that was it as far as fantasy, other than Jamison Crowder, who pulls us back in, Cease. Louder with Crowder with the 2 touchdowns. We'll see next week as he goes against Seattle. And it was actually kind of thrilling, Cease, because you had the Jets, maybe they were going to win, which would make the Jags the number 1 team in the draft.
But the Jags might have won.
They're trying to win. And as much as you can have the teams that are the worst teams in the league causing drama, we got it in week 13.
That's what week 13's about. And you feel for Deshaun Watson. T.Y. Hilton showing some love to Deshaun Watson after the game as he was, sobbing into his towel, basically is what it looked like after the game was over. 26-20, the final score. Colts over the Texans. Phillip Rivers throws a couple of touchdowns, 285 yards. Wanted T.Y. Hilton, 8 for 110 and a touchdown. He was feeling it. Jonathan Taylor gets the other receiving touchdown as they just kind of forgot to cover him on man-to-man coverage. 3 for 44 and a touch as a receiver, 11 for 91 as a rusher. So Taylor was back, and it was big. Nyheim Hines bouncing it outside for his rushing touchdown, 6 for 10 on the day, and then 3 for 22 as a receiver. He had him in as a flex play. You'll take that. Michael Pittman Jr. might have been a flex, 5 for 46. PPR, it's all right. And then to the tight end trio of Mo Cox, 3 for 23, Jack Doyle, 1 for 12, and Trey Burton, 1 for 11. Nobody's starting Zach Pascal anymore. That window was done in September?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Colts today.
I guess we got to start with T.Y. Hilton returning home. The story Zach Kiefer was telling it is that in week 17, a few years back, whenever the Colts found out they were going to go to Houston for their wild card game, T.Y. Hilton said, "I'm going home." And you're going to the playoffs, on in the playoffs, or otherwise had a good week if you were trusting T.Y. Hilton in this one. He actually had like 70 yards and a touchdown, 5 for 74 and a touchdown in the first quarter of this one. So it could have been a lot more there. Phillip Rivers, as you said, passing well, despite the news about plantar plate. I didn't even know we had plates in our feet, but his is cracked or something. It's talking about surgery after the season. He doesn't care. Jonathan Taylor, there's a lot of, should I play Taylor, should I not play Taylor? First of all, it's the Texans. And as Cecil said, they just left him alone. They just forgot to cover him. So this is why, if you're on the fence, maybe play players that are facing the Texans. And by the way, Indy's going to get them again in week 15 because those things can happen. Nyheim Hines with Jonathan Taylor doing better, not a huge part of the game. Also, they're not necessarily nursing a big lead, but it wasn't a game where they had to come back from behind, unlike last week. So you didn't see Hines get a big volume. You did see him get a touchdown, pretty easy touchdown, good vision, getting to the pylon there. Nothing from the tight end. So if you were flirting with Trey Burton, trying to dip your toes back in the water of Colts tight end, no, don't do it. Michael Pittman did okay in this one, but again, it was T.Y. Hilton's afternoon. And again, the Raiders, and the way things went down, the Colts moved back into a tie for first. And, this is measuring up against the Texans, but it's a divisional game. We'll see if they let the Raiders get back in. But I will say this. There was a time, Cease, earlier this year where the Rivers signing, really, he's kind of in his sunset time as a quarterback. But now I think you can see how they're drawing from him and how his thing of whatever, I don't need 2 feet to pass the ball. I can handle it. Put something in my shoes, stuff some newspaper down in there or something. We'll make it work. The team is making it work. And I look forward to a chance to see a Rivers Colts team in the playoffs, see what happens.
Yeah, just see what happens. Deshaun Watson, see what happens when they get more around him. Deshaun Watson, 341 yards, no touchdowns, 1 INT, did rush a touchdown in. David Johnson was Mac and 10 for 44 and a rushing touchdown there for David Johnson. Targeted a couple of times, didn't catch anything. Duke Johnson, there's still something there. No, there isn't. 2 for 8. 6 for 24 as a receiver. Okay. But Brandon Cooks, 5 for 65. Now he's hurt. Chad Hansen, yes, remember him. He's still in the league, man. You got to give it up for guys like that that just kind of hang around. 5 for 101. This guy was a great route runner in college and then just can't. I think he was in Denver for a cup of coffee? Kiki Cutie, 8 for 141 for Kiki Cutie. Nothing from the tight ends. Doesn't matter. Kahali Warren, Darren Fells, and Jordan Akins all combined for 2 catches for 10 yards, and it was all Akins. So here you go, Bloom. It's Kiki Cutie time.
It is. Here it is. Here they are. A lot of requests, Cease. A lot of requests. Yeah, there they are. A lot of requests. Thank you again to my lovely wife, Kate, for gifting me. Give gifts that show that you care. I care. And Seth Payne, you remember Seth Payne? I think it was former Texan, not doing radio. Said yes. Kiki Cutie was imprisoned in Bill O'Brien, sorry, B.O.B. I'm thinking. He was imprisoned in Bill O'Brien's doghouse on a baseless charge. He's out of the doghouse now. Go ahead.
I know. I was just laughing at the baseless charge.
Because that's just what happens. We saw, remember, Jalen Strong talk about how no matter how well you did in practice, no matter how well you did in camp, you just knew certain guys were going to get a chance and certain guys weren't. Now Kiki's got his chance. Brandon Cooks actually left the game briefly to be checked for a concussion in this one. So, that might actually be bad for QT, to be honest, but you see the die is cast here. It's Deshaun Watson who's going to be productive, and it's Kiki Cutie who's going to he had a long catch and run to open the game, continued to help Watson move the sticks. And it's really just Watson at this point. Cooks is going to stay in your lineup. Chad Hansen, has got some speed and bounced around. But, this is one thing. We're seeing this also Cease with Dante Moncrief getting his shot with the Patriots, doing some special team stuff. The bigger practice squads, let's hope this is one of those coronavirus things that persists after coronavirus. More guys are getting a chance to revive their career, and we want to see that. David Johnson, at least getting a touchdown here, but it was Duke Johnson getting those receptions out of the backfield, as Cecil pointed out. So keeping him in what the heck flex zone. And like you saw, Cecil, like you pointed out, after O'Brien was fired, I think it was a weight lifted from this team's shoulders. Now, you're just back to being a team that doesn't have much because of the personnel decisions O'Brien made.
Right.
And you saw that weight kind of land on Deshaun Watson. It's still, lots of great things to look forward to in Watson's future. The team's future, hearing a little murmurs about the Dorsey-Bieniemy combination, maybe. Certainly would be a bit of a U-turn from Jack Easterby and company, but I would be all for it.
Mm-hmm. Spencer says, I never thought I'd root for Kiki, but Sig has dragged me here.
Just think of it as rooting against Bill O'Brien.
Then everybody.
The better Kiki does, the worse O'Brien looks. So we like that.
Yeah, the better Deshaun Watson does, the worse O'Brien looks because he never wanted him.
No!
Rick Smith, ladies and gentlemen, the unsung hero of the Texans quarterback situation. Baker Mayfield, the quarterback situation. 41-35 over Tennessee. And this was most of it 38 points in the first half by Cleveland. Baker Mayfield was absolutely on fire. 25-33, 334 yards, 4 touchdowns, no INTs, doing basically whatever he wanted to do to that opponent. Rashard Higgins goes 6 for 95 and a touch. Donovan Peoples-Jones, might want to cover him, 2 for 92 and a touch there as well. Jarvis Landry, 8 for 62 and a touchdown. It's so fun to watch him play. Kendall Lamb, big man touchdown alert. Even Kendall Lamb got involved with his touchdown there. Nick Chubb, of course, scored 18 for 80 and a touchdown. Kareem Hunt, 14 for 33 and then 3 for 24 as a receiver. By the way, Chubb had a catch for 26 yards, which helps your fantasy day. And it helps your fantasy day if you had Baker Mayfield, and it hurts it if you went up against him.
What a day for Baker. He did have the 5 touchdowns against Cincinnati earlier this year. Only 4, all 4 in the first half. There was a point when the broadcaster said, the Titans have no answer for Baker Mayfield. And it was true. It was true. Baker Mayfield. Now we're back to Baker Mayfield as a factor. But really, isn't it Kevin Stefanski? I mean, isn't this who we should be gushing about right now? Because you watch the play calls, and it's similar to what we saw with Arthur Smith last year for the Titans. It's just an understanding of your opponent. It's like that Matrix Kung Fu where you see the punch coming and you know exactly how to duck it and you know exactly where the opening's going to be. And in the first half, we saw the Titans score 5 touchdowns in the first half last week. And they have it done to them this week, which again, you're looking at Tennessee's schedule. You're saying, and on next week it's Mike Glennon. I think Mike Glennon, maybe Gardner Minshew. Jacksonville's been playing well with Glennon. You're going to get Detroit and Green Bay. So unless there's some snowstorm with 30-mile-an-hour winds in Week 16 up in Green Bay at Lambeau, you're really liking that matchup after how easy it was without Odell Beckham. Let's remember. And it's the play calling, the easy touchdown to the offensive lineman who was eligible and did report, I guess, Cecil. Kendall Lamb's a veteran, so he knew that.
Right.
You had one where Jarvis Landry threw a third down pass, a complete pass. Baker Mayfield actually made a good play on the ball. It wasn't a great pass. And then they roughed Landry. So you got a roughing the passer call when the wide receiver throws a pass. And that was just the kind of afternoon it was. Nick Chubb's looking great. Had those 4 weeks off of that knee injury. Maybe Kareem Hunt wearing down a little bit more, but they'll keep using him. Hollywood Higgins looking good with a great touchdown at the pylon. Jarvis Landry, if you trusted him after his first big week of the year, he came through with another one, especially in PPR leagues. And Donovan Peoples-Jones, he had one easy one that he dropped and then just turned around and got a 75-yarder to make up for it. That's the kind of day it was. Even the mistakes didn't stick out. And see, so we went into this one thinking, are they really a playoff team? Because they beat up on all the little sisters of the AFC. Tennessee is a team that is always a tough out, and they were going to Tennessee in this one. And yeah, it was a resounding statement by this team. And they get Baltimore next week, a team that beat them 38-6 in week 1. And see, so we'll say a player's not a rookie. Kevin Stefanski's not a rookie head coach anymore.
Right.
This team is very confident. We're going to see how they measure up. Remember, they still have the Steelers, and they have the Giants and the Jets. So, again, if they take care and beat the teams they're supposed to beat, we should see them back in the playoffs, ending a long drought. I think it's the first time they've even won 9 games since like 2007.
It'll be 13 years.
Yeah.
They're ending their they have a winning record for the first time in 13 years.
So why stop there? Why be satisfied there? And for Tennessee, man, this has been a long and winding road for this team, and no give up in this one, but they really didn't have a chance.
Yeah, they're going to beat the Steelers in Week 17. Book it. Tennessee, hard fought, 389 yards from Ryan Tannehill. Again, second half, they just try to do anything. 3 touchdowns, 1 INT for Tannehill. Touchdowns go like this. Corey Davis, 11 for 182 and a touchdown. Don't give up on your talented first round wide receivers that work hard. A.J. Brown gets banged up in this one. Bloom, give us the latest on that. 4 for 87. McCole Pruitt, 1 for 22 in that touchdown. And then with the fumble recovery touchdown, is that you better get fantasy points for that. Check your rules, ladies and gentlemen. Cameron Batson gets a touchdown there as well. Anthony Ferkser with 5 for 51. And then Derrick Henry, 15 for 60. It was Jeremy McNichols with the rushing touchdown, though. Derrick Henry also catch for 9 yards. So Tennessee fought back. The score is going to look, 41-35. They just fell short. No. Yeah, they were down 38-7 at half.
And it was 41-21 for most of the second half. They came out and scored 2 quick touchdowns to 35-21 and 38-21, then got another field goal. And then the defense clamped down. Nick Chubb did a few things. And the last 2 touchdowns were basically in true garbage time when the game was definitely decided. I guess if they had got an onside kick with 30 seconds left, you never know. But Tannehill, so it was a game script. Tannehill, game script, Corey Davis. And what a redemption year for Corey Davis. COVID year. Corey Davis, who has been through personal turmoil here, losing his brother this year. So Corey Davis, fully in our circle of confidence now, circle of trust. A.J. Brown, you're still going to keep playing him. Look, if A.J. Brown's on the field, he's in my fantasy lineup. Left with a non-contact lower leg injury, came back out there, but you just wonder if this stuff is going to build up. As it is just for this team, everything they've been through, some of these epic games they've been playing against good competition. You also had, and that fumble was by A.J. Brown inside the 5 that Pruitt recovered. Ferkser was adequate but it was Pruitt getting the touchdown and the fumble recovery touchdown. So, do we turn around and play Ryan Tannehill against Jacksonville next week? I don't think he's going to get that kind of game script. I think we do turn around and play Davis and Brown and Derrick Henry. And really, Cecil, you knew this was going to be a weird day in this game because Henry comes out in the first half, gets stuffed on fourth down, get fumbles, gets stuffed on a 2-point conversion. So the Browns, they were not feeling intimidated by Derrick Henry in the least bit. Again, Jacksonville next week, they're probably scared. Like, that's a trigger. When they see Derrick Henry walk out of the tunnel, they're like, oh, do we have to play him? So, you have Tennessee and Indy, 8-4. They both are going to play Houston and Jacksonville. Indy's going to get Las Vegas and Pittsburgh in the other two games. And Tennessee's going to get Detroit and Green Bay. So, this is a real toss-up. Right down to the end here, AFC South, always exciting.
Always exciting. Always. Well, I'm lying. It's Lions and Bears, but this one was exciting. 34-30, the final score, and it's the Lions. Okay, Sandy. No Matt Patricia, and you get a win. Okay, Matthew Stafford goes 402 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 INTs. Marvin Jones Jr., 8 for 116 and a touch. Quintus Cephas and that deep speed girl, 2 for 63 and a touch. And then Jesse James, when he's not dropping passes or passes thrown behind him, 1 for 9 and a touchdown in that same drive, I believe, Bloom. Anyway, Dammy Amendola, 3 for 62. Mohamed Sanu, 2 for 36. Okay, there you go. Adrian Peterson, 2 rushing touchdowns, 16 for 57. You're thinking about DeAndre Swift being out, so maybe Kerryon Johnson? Nope, 3 for 3. And then 2 for 8 as a receiver. So there you have it. But it was the recipe for success as the Lions fought hard and charged back with a 14-point fourth quarter to win.
Darrell Bevel gets that headset, it says head coach on it, or whatever the signifying thing is. I don't know, Cease. What is it? What is the thing? Like, you get the green sticker, you get something. And the offense was a little more fun in this one. Now, this was a mirror image of the first game between these teams this year. You like symmetry, the Lions basically control a game against the Bears, collapse at the end multiple times. Because again, the Lions, Stafford throws an interception in the fourth quarter. The Lions are trying to say, good job, Bears, you get this one. And the Bears are like, no. How about a Mitch Trubisky strip sack to give you a chance? And the Lions do end up pulling this one out in a fun game, celebrating Ding Dong, the witch is dead. Bears defense is wilting. So we're looking at the Bears facing Deshaun Watson next week and feeling pretty good about that. Matthew Stafford had that big game. Again, assist to the Bears defense, assist to Darrell Bevel. No Kenny Golladay. Maybe Kenny Golladay says, that looks like fun. Maybe I'll get out there. As you said, Adrian Peterson with the 2 touchdowns. And great determination to get the game-winning touchdown. That's why you sign an Adrian Peterson. We'll see about DeAndre Swift coming back next week for Detroit against Green Bay. Marvin Jones Jr., the big game. TJ Hawkinson, big game. Even Quintez Cephas hauling in a bomb. That's not exactly how you had him penciled in the NFL. You're not thinking deep threat. Deep threat when Darrell Bevel is the head coach, though. So fun game. See if they can have some fun and beat a nemesis team, a team that always finds a way to beat them. Green Bay next week. And I guess we can maybe finally call it a wrap for Chicago's season. Cease, maybe Pace and Nagy, if you're a Bears fan, are you rooting for it? I think so.
Yeah. And you could see that. Mitchell Trubisky, 267 yards, 1 touchdown, no INTs. Allen Robinson, 6 for 75 on only 7 targets, should double that. Anthony Miller fighting hard, 5 for 56 in this contest. It was Cole Kmet with the 1 touchdown received, 5 for 37 in this one. David Montgomery hard charging. 17 for 72 and 2 touchdowns in this one for Montgomery, 4 for 39 as a receiver. By the way, Darnell Mooney in that speed, 4 for 43. Cordero Patterson, 10 for 59 and a rushing touchdown around the edge there. Also a catch for 4 yards here. So, and Jimmy Graham got blanked, target, no catches in this one. So, okay, yeah, I think we're seeing the final days of the Nagy Bears, and Bears fans are probably happy about that.
Yeah, they should be. And it wasn't Trubisky's fault. Trubisky played well enough. It wasn't his usual bonanza that he has against the Lions, but it was good enough. That gave you Allen Robinson had an adequate game, a little bit for Mooney, a little bit for Miller there, but it was David Montgomery's day and Cordero Patterson. So you like starting runners against Detroit. That's Aaron Jones next week, maybe a little Jamal Williams. What you saw from Montgomery, though, is that tackle breaking ability really starting to translate in important moments. Now, he wasn't able to do it on a fourth down that maybe could have secured a win for the Bears, but that was more blocking than him. But finally, we've said this now for 2 straight weeks. We said it once earlier this year. You're seeing the David Montgomery that you were hoping to see whenever the Bears drafted him. So, there's a survivor. Who knows if there's the new regime, what the new regime is going to think of him. This was a team that started 5-1, lost 5 straight, and that's it. I mean, 5-7. I don't think you're going to make the playoffs in the NFC at 9-7. Maybe we'll get 8 teams. I don't know. Again, it's Houston next week, so Houston already swept the deck. Probably about time for Chicago to be very serious about that.
Very serious is what you thought Vikings fans were being at the end of this game. It's like, okay, it's Jacksonville, but a win is a win. Am I right? 27-24, the Vikings get the win over Jacksonville in overtime. Mike Glennon, 280 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs. There's Colin Johnson again, 4 for 66. Tyler Eifert, 6 for 45. DJ Chark, 2 for 41. James O'Shaughnessy, 4 for 41. It was Visca with 3 for 38 and a touch at the back of the end zone. And then James Robinson, man, God bless James Robinson, 18 for 78 and a rushing touchdown, and then 6 for 30 as a receiver. You did hear them say, like, we're going to use Dare Agamawale a little bit more. It's like, okay, why? It's just keep using James Robinson. Like, rookie wall with his usage, he should have hit the rookie wall in like week 9. Yeah. So yeah, we don't need to get cute with James Robinson. Just keep using him. Hell, it almost won you this game.
Hanging right down to the end, 2-point conversion sent it to overtime. Mike Glennon is just giving this team some spirit. So Glennon's making himself some money. Now, Glennon's touchdown pass, Cecil, we've watched a lot of football, like tens of thousands of hours of football, that touchdown was in the top 5. Like, I didn't understand what happened. Glennon threw the ball. It went through like 3 different players, and Laviska Shenault just waited for it and it was right there. It was like someone walked down the field and handed it to him. I don't know if it skidded off of the back of a Viking, which is, how many times have we ever seen that? Like, how can a pass go off of your back? But Shenault, I don't even think he was the intended receiver. Got the touchdown. Made a few things happen as a runner also. Of course, James Robinson. Oh, man. It's just, see, I think of like the Oscars. There are movies that are like, they're not great movies, but they're great performances. That's James Robinson. I mean, the writing's not good. The directing's not good. It's a hard movie to sit through unless James Robinson's on the screen. Right. And that's just fantastic. Otherwise, in the passing game, it was kind of a group effort. You saw the tight ends getting involved, Eifert and O'Shaughnessy. Not much DJ Chark in this one, so we're not necessarily loving that. Minshew was the backup, by the way, not Jake Luton. And Jacksonville, it's a divisional game. They've been hanging tough against Cleveland, a team that just beat Tennessee, right? That's who they play next week. Tennessee in the divisional matchup.
Yeah, and maybe one less tight end target to Eric Salbert. I hate to call out the Drake product, but like, you had one ripped away from you, bro. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not going to get targeted that many times. You better pull that thing in. Dalvin Cook. It's a rough one, but they kept feeding him, Bloom. This is what happens when you have the best back in the league. 32 for 120. So 3.8 a carry, but 32 carries. Also 6 for 59 as a receiver. Just wouldn't go away from him for good reason. Wouldn't go away from Justin Jefferson. He's fun to watch. 9 for 121 and a touch there on 12 targets. Adam Thielen back of the end zone. Speaking of ripping away, 8 for 75 and a touch there on 11 targets. CJ Ham, don't forget the fullback, gets a touchdown there as well. And then, well, nobody's starting CJ Ham, and nobody starts anyone outside of Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, and maybe some people with Kirk Cousins. A good day for all those players mentioned.
If you started Cousins, it was a good move for a different reason than you probably started him. It was because they fell behind. They're down by 10 points in the second half. Cousins did bring them back. So Cousins getting some wins, not as clean as you would hope in the fourth quarter and overtime, but enough. And a lot of it is the effort that Dalvin Cook is putting out there. You just get the feeling, though, 32 carries. Oh, and again, Cook does not lessen the punishment on his body with the way he plays. You just wonder if he's going to hold up. The appendectomy with Alexander Madison, so we could be talking about Mike Boone before the end of the year. Run, hide. Adam Thielen, the consummate professional, looking good. You did see, of course, Justin Jefferson. Another one from the Sultan of Stat, Tristan H. Cockcroft. Most fantasy points by a rookie wide receiver through his team's first 12 games. Justin Jefferson, number 5 overall. Billy Houghton, Bill Groman, and Harlan Hill. That's, what does it see? Division 3 is the Harlan Hill Trophy, or Division 2? Maybe is it FCS, like the Heisman, right? I don't remember.
Yeah.
These are all players from the pre-Super Bowl era. The only player to outscore Justin Jefferson as a wide receiver through the first 12 games of his rookie year, Randy Moss. Of course,
Randy Moss.
So lightning striking here again for Justin Jefferson. If Chase Claypool can get like 45 points tomorrow, then Chase Claypool's in the conversation. So, he had 3 touchdowns earlier this year. Maybe Chase Claypool gets in the conversation here. So let's just take a moment to pay tribute to Justin Jefferson. Kyle Rudolph, not so much in this one. Let's take a moment to pay tribute to the Vikings, because there was a time that they seemed dead in the water. Now at 6-6, very much alive in the water. The water in Tampa Bay, actually. That is where they're going next week. That should be a fascinating simulation of a wild card play-in game, and the Vikings are finding a way.
I just remember New Orleans and Saints, the final. New Orleans and Saints. Saints and Falcons, the final game. We're going to recap here in Week 13. Recap on the Audible. And New Orleans. I'll have to find a way to get back down there. Sometime, Bloom. Sometime.
Now I know my way around with the food, including the gas station fried chicken. Like, we need that in our lives. We need it, but we don't need it.
Yeah. Well, it's meat, but it's just deep fried. So there you have it. Saints and Falcons, the next game. 21-16, the final score. And Taysom Hill, who says he can't be a passer. 27-37, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns. And, well, his first one to Traquan Smith was the first touchdown he's thrown since, 2015? That's a collegian.
Let's go preseason. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Traquan Smith, the receiver on that end, 3 for 42 and a touch. They actually used Jared Cook for the other touchdown, 3 for 28 and a touch. Emmanuel Sanders, 5 for 39. Can't guard Michael Thomas, 9 for 105. Some incredibly tough catches. And by the way, threading the needle a couple of times with Taysom Hill, so let's praise him for that. Our Alvin Kamara or Devontae Booker questions? You got your answer. It was Kamara, 15 for 88 and a touch in this one, 2 for 9 as a receiver. So he entered the game with 1 catch in 2 games with Taysom Hill. He had 2 catches in this game. So, yeah, you could up that. You could bump that up. You could use it a little bit more. Taysom Hill, by the way, with 83 rushing yards. Latavius Murray didn't do much in this contest, and, well, they still come out victorious.
So you had the Taysom Hill experiment here. The Falcons just saw him 2 weeks ago. It was the Falcons, but they were coming in playing very well. And if it's really easy to figure out Taysom Hill once you play him, you would think they figure him out. Actually, Hill looked even better as a passer in this one. See, if you just didn't know any background of football, and you just watch this game, and you watch the Saints quarterback, you would not think that he was a project. You would not think that he was somebody that there was arguments about whether he could even be a credible NFL passer. He looked to be in sync with the play calls. His passes were on time, maybe occasionally even an anticipation pass. Certainly passes that were setting up his receivers for excellent run after catch opportunities. You weren't seeing wide receivers having to slow down or break stride or catch the ball behind them. It was the Falcons. But if we're going to say it was the Falcons, what happened to the Jason's out there, right? What happened to the Raiders last week? If it's just so easy when it's the Falcons, and that's why Taysom Hill looks so good against them as a passer. Derek Carr begs to differ. You did see Kamara looking good and getting that touchdown, and Murray kind of going back into the background. So Murray is basically just a Kamara injury hedge at this point. Michael Thomas, he had 9 for 104 in the first game against Atlanta, 9 for 105 in this one. So, it's nice symmetry there. Yeah. Emmanuel Sanders, not a great fantasy game, but what we're building towards is Drew Brees week 15 now we're talking about. Traquan Smith looking to be in good sync with Taysom Hill, so keep that in mind. Taysom Hill is the quarterback next year for this team. Going to Philadelphia, trying to get that number 1 seed. And for the second straight year, you see Drew Brees go down, and the plan was a little different, but team is not missing a beat.
Not missing a beat. Falcons are missing something. And it's a healthy Todd Gurley, 8 for 16. It's not fun. Like, it's fun watching Justin Jefferson, right? It's fun watching these other players. It's not fun watching Todd Gurley because he's wincing in pain. He's not himself. He can barely move. It's like, okay, just throw in Ito Smith, throw in Brian Hill, whatever. They didn't do anything today either. Matt Ryan goes 273 and a touchdown, no picks. Russell Gage gets a touchdown, 4 for 51 and a touch. Julio, 6 for 94. Calvin Ridley, 5 for 108 in this contest. Hayden Hurst gets a catch for 9 yards. And then the running backs trio combined for 70 yards. So just wasn't anything there. They could barely get anything going against their heated rival, even though they're playing at home.
It wasn't as close as the score, okay? It was 21-9. The Saints were driving to make it 28-9, and there was a sack fumble. Stephen Means, as the Falcons are getting some pass rushes from some new characters. And then they were able to go down and score, make it 21-16. They actually had a Hail Mary chance in this one. So it was a gasp, but that was it. Saints are always going to treat Matt Ryan rudely. You did see Julio Jones gutting it out. Calvin Ridley playing very well. It's still not those massive games just because, Saints have their share of penalties. They have their share of lapses. They also have their share of sacks and containing the running game. Todd Gurley, as Dr. Gene pointed out this morning on the Sunday morning update, Sunday morning preview, that he's obviously battling something with that arthritic knee. So you're just not going to get the Todd Gurley you're used to seeing, even used to seeing when he's been good for your fantasy team this year. Probably not trusting him for the rest of the year. They are going to face the Chargers, and the Chargers cease the Chargers right now. And by the way, Russell Gage does something, Hayden Hurst does nothing. So just when we thought we could trust Hayden Hurst. Last week, it was the team that played the Falcons, the Raiders, that were the worst team out of all the teams in action, out of all 32. It's only 30 this week. It's Carolina and Tampa on bye. The Chargers, next week's opponent for Atlanta, currently the worst team playing in the NFL, at least if we're going by, just this week.
Okay. Looks like we got some Sunday action to get back to, including Jalen Hurts out there throwing his first touchdown on a 4th and 18. Okay.
First place Giants trying to get a win in Seattle. See what Russell Wilson can do. Jared Goff, throwing the ball well, running the ball well. Rams offense looking good.
Broncos will get embarrassed on Sunday Night Football, and we'll call it a wrap.
Yeah.
Although Vic Fangio's job is safe, which is not breaking news. I love when people break their arms, patting themselves on the back. Yeah. It's not breaking news. What you should be asking is why. Why would someone with among the worst records of all head coaches over the last 2 years still have his job? That's what I like, Bloom.
I just like that you gave us a little taste of the rant because there's no Broncos game to recap. Just a little taste, because really the question you'd be asking is how the Broncos still, how's there a check that goes every week with the Denver Broncos name on it made out to Cecil Lammey? Maybe there's some integrity there, but I know with the integrity in one Cecil this way, that way. Cecil, so thank you. That made my heart jump whenever I heard just a little bit of the venom. Just a little bit.
Little tiny bit. Little tiny bit. Who survives? Who moves on? That's the world of the National Football League, everyone. He is Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. Join in on the show at the Audible. I am at Cecil Lammey. And there'll be a rant. It'll probably be a Tuesday or something.
The waiver wire shows. Who's even doing the waiver wire? It's just an excuse for us to get on and talk about.
Right. You shouldn't be doing waiver wires. Your waiver wires should be closed. But if they're open, we're on for you Tuesday morning. And yeah, I'll probably still have Venom when we discuss that. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We're the Audible. Everyone out there, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.